Hey SML, welcome to the second episode of Flying High with D Muse and Q Pierce. Um, Looking forward to talking to you today. Q, how you doing?
Doing well, man. How are you doing? Ready to be here. Ready to go.
Yeah, no, it's an exciting time in the SML. The playoffs are quickly approaching. I think we have a good idea this at this point in the season, who's contenders, who's pretenders, and all that good stuff. And I know we have a few topics to get to today, so without further ado, let's get started. Um, the first topic that we're going to be discussing today is based on Madden 22. You see a lot of complaints throughout the day in the chat, online, anywhere you look with this game. Do you think it's better or worse than last year, and why?
For me personally, I think it is much better. Um, I think it's much better because I've seen some people on the side of saying it is better, and I've seen some people on the side of saying it's worse. But for me personally, I think when last Madden came out, we quickly found out that all you needed to do was draft a running back with a 91 speed or higher because you can get them to plus one, plus two speed through 5, 6 seasons or seasons. And if you dev him up, then you can stay in the game with anybody, and you can literally just hand it to him 20 to 25 times, and he's going to pick up 150 yards if you really know how to run the ball correctly, which 29 of us knew how to do last year. So I think automatically it made people have to figure out how to open their playbook and expand a little bit on what they need to do to move the chains a little bit more. Um, and some aren't enjoying that, obviously, and some are enjoying it. But also, I see a lot of people are talking about the defensive side of the ball. I don't notice the deep blue problems anymore as much, but maybe I'm not playing guys that are just running streaks every single play, or going deep every single play. But I feel defense is better as well. I like that, one guy can't cover, half of the field if they know how to use it pretty good. I do enjoy that as well because that shouldn't be the case. There's no middle linebackers in the league that can do that really, or even sub linebackers that can cover half of the field by themselves. So I appreciate that more as well. Just it feels a lot more realistic. And um, now obviously Bomber is the exception because he's the number one team in the league right now, and he's the advocate for saying he's about done and ready to go. So I don't know how. Um, I won't speak for him as far as the running game and as far as things like that because he's doing pretty good. But everybody else that is having a little bit more of a tough time running the ball, I think that they're not appreciating it as much because they used to be able to get 150 and, like I said, stay within at least a score or two with even the best teams. So I'd say that's a big difference.
Yeah, and we'll get to Bomber in just a minute here, but it would be easy for me to say I liked last year's game better. I'm struggling so far in Madden 22, but I think I'm going to agree with you. I think overall the game is better. I agree with the realism aspect. You don't just see random running backs popping off for 10 yards a carry. I like that the user is nerfed a little bit. I mean, that's gotten better over the years. Like, it was a lot
Yeah, it
worse
has.
5 years ago than it was last year, even.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but not having super linebackers or super sub linebackers that guys can just take over with is definitely a good thing. But I agree. I think overall it's pretty reminiscent of how the NFL is going in real life. You see a lot more passing in today's game.
Yeah.
Defenses maybe aren't as good at getting stops when they need them. You see a lot more creativity, a lot more open space. So I think in that aspect, the fact that you can pass a little bit easier makes sense to me. I also have noticed, and I agree with you on the deep blues. By the way, I haven't noticed that being an issue in a while. Down up in Minnesota, our only issue is we're slow, but I think overall the
Same.
zones have gotten better. But we, I mean, yeah, I just think it's more realistic. I think it's more natural, and it's basically what I expected it to be. The first game on the next gen, I expected some fundamental improvements, and I think we got them. So I think there's
Yeah.
always going to be stuff to complain about with these games, but I don't think comparing it to last year's game, I don't think you could say last year's game was better.
I agree. I have one thing to add as well and I think in the NFL you're seeing a lot more blown coverage assignments as well lately. You see a lot more blown assignments these days than I feel like you used to in the past. And that can touch on also like how people are saying there's blown assignments. I don't know why this guy's picking this guy up. Sometimes in real life, the guy they actually do make bad reads, and somehow somebody's in the back of the end zone wide open, and the guys in defense have both got their hands up wondering what happened. So
No, that's a great point, and I agree with you. So I know you mentioned that Bomber seems to not be enjoying this game. He said so himself in the chat, throwing some cryptic messages through his tweets from the Browns' Twitter. He went from undefeated to I think he has 2 losses now. I don't know if that's impacting him. I mean, it sounds like he just said he's not enjoying the game at all. So, what happens to the SML if Bomber leaves?
I definitely think it takes a hit. There's no doubt about it. Because he's a huge impact. His voice does cast a huge cloud over the SML when he speaks. We listen from time to time, and I know obviously he has Prime's ear as well, and Prime appreciates him, and we all appreciate him for the content that he brings. Obviously, if he did go, it would result in a lot of us needing to step up as well, and just kind of making the SML feel like you don't have such a huge presence gone. It'd be definitely a bad day, but I think the league would keep going. Obviously, I think that it would keep running, and I think it would run smooth. It just would definitely be uh, sad to no longer get those great production, quality videos and shows that we all look forward to every week. And obviously, and that's Prime's like guy to that's his, the golden boy. Bomber is the golden boy of the SML. We all, for some reason, we're all playing the same game to win a Simbardi, but we all want him to win a Simbardi. So it's kind of weird how we're all rooting for him to win, even though we all should be wanting ourselves to win. Definitely don't want him to go, and I definitely think the league would keep running, but yeah, it would probably take a big hit.
No, I agree with you. I mean, here at Flying High, we're not even technically savvy enough to do anything more than some voice recording and an SML logo in the background. So he definitely adds a lot to the league. I really hope that it's just some frustration, maybe some boredom, and that it's nothing long term, and that he sticks around for a long time in the SML. His videos, first and goal, battle at the border, everything else that he does, I mean, they're great contributions to this league. They're part of what make the SML great, what separates us from other leagues. So I agree with you. I mean, it'd be a huge loss. Obviously, the league would keep going. I have full faith in Prime and the rest of the admin team and the OGs that we would just keep pushing forward and we'd find a way. But Bomber, if you're listening, don't leave, man. We don't want to see you go.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mentioned at the start that the playoff race is here among us. The playoffs are fast approaching. So I think one of the topics we wanted to cover is talk about some consistent playoff contenders from last cycle who might get left out. I'm actually one of them. I'm not going to talk about myself, though. But I can start on this topic. I'm going to go with Matt in the AFC. Matt's a good player. I know he's starting Dwayne Haskins, and Matt, I feel you. I mean, he's even worse than Kellen Mond, so I can't imagine what you're going through over there. But I mean, Matt's sitting at 7-5. It's a good record. Nothing wrong with how he's been playing so far. He's played some teams tough. He's gotten some good wins, but the AFC is just stacked. 2 of the wild card teams, one's 9-3, the other's 9-4, as of this recording. And then you really have 4 teams fighting here. You got the Raiders sitting at 7-4, Matt at 7-5, Dan at 7-5, and the Ravens at 7-5. And I know we have a couple of new users with the Raiders and Ravens that we may not have as much backstory on, but I played the Ravens. He was a really good player. I know he beat Bomber as well, so I think he's going to be dangerous. The Raiders seem to be making some leeway in a tough division. I know he took over for RD, Rip RD, we miss you. But that's a decent Madden roster. They have a lot of weapons. They're always going to be dangerous. And it looks like they've had some big wins. They've had a couple losses. But overall, they're playing pretty good football in Las Vegas. And I just think Dan's going to make the playoffs starting 0-5. Now he's 7-5. I think he's back to being what we sort of expected him to be as a player, especially with a team as good as the Chargers. I know he traded away Herbert for Goff, but I don't really think it's going to impact him that much. He got a lot of hate for that trade, and it was a great trade for you, but we saw it all last cycle where you build up a quarterback and trade him because I don't think he wants to pay them long
Yeah.
term. So if you're going to get draft picks, might as well do it early because then you have the whole cycle to develop them.
Yeah.
So he, I think he's going to make the playoffs, which I think leaves Matt out of the playoffs. Matt's got a pretty tough schedule here to finish. He plays me, which isn't that tough. He plays the Titans, but then his last 3 games, he plays Prime, he plays Mad Bomber, and he plays King Spades, the Ravens. Those are 3 good football teams. That Steelers-Ravens game in Week 18 could decide some playoff situations, but overall, I just think the schedule is too hard. I think the AFC is too good, and I think Matt's going to miss out on the playoffs, and that's someone who was in the last Super Bowl in the SML. So that's my pick for consistent playoff contender to miss. Do you have anyone you want to talk about?
Well, so for that was your AFC. Definitely took my AFC guy right there because I know, like you said, I think Dan has kind of figured it out now. If you're 0-5 and you're now 7-5, clearly you figured out how you want to play and what's working for you. I definitely can see Matt missing the playoffs. In the AFC, I will probably go with. Damn, I just saw. I'm going to go with Meats, actually. This might be a shocker. I'm going to go with Meats. The reason why is I look at his schedule. Like you said, Matt has a really tough schedule. But Meats also has, who's really been playing well, DW, who's one of the best defensive teams in the league. He's like 9-3, I believe, as of right now while we're recording this. Right after that, he does have Clink, who's part of the Thanos Club, like DW. They might have trade some inside info between each other because he goes back to back against them both. So he might, they might pick up on some tendencies that he likes. I know Clink always likes a game versus Meats because the disrespect is real. And then after that, he has Field General, who, and you never know, it can go both ways. I see Field General's guys as game of the weeks. Almost not every week, obviously, but I've seen him weekly. I've seen Derrick Henry just went for 300 yards. So he might be able to, make some noise in one game like he beat Prime this year. He can definitely beat Meats if he can beat Prime. So there's another one. And then the last one is the Patriots, double rice, no bean. I don't know much about him, but he beat Bomber as one of his wins, which is very impressive. And he's played some close games. And obviously you hear good things about him. So you could definitely see after he just got beat pretty badly by the new guy, Doc, by the Giants, his morale might be a little bit low. He hops in versus DW, could maybe take a loss right there, and it can spiral. He can go out, lose out. Obviously, I don't expect him to lose out, but after looking at the teams, I think that he would be the other one if it's not Matt in the AFC.
No, I can see that. I think the 2-game lead is going to get him in, but I can see a reasoning there. I mean, there's some hot teams in the AFC. There's a couple good teams that are going to get left out of the playoffs. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Who's your NFC team?
NFC, I don't want to pick you, and you are probably the biggest name that pops out when you look at the teams that are around 500. But I'm going to go with Woods, actually. I'm going to go with the Panthers. He's been a playoff guy with the Browns last cycle. I don't know much before that because I wasn't in it, but I heard he was pretty good. I think actually in the draft he was talked about as one of the the premier guys last draft, not this last one, but the one before that for Madden 21. But when I'm looking at it, he's 6-6 right now, and he still has left on his schedule Faz in 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now. He has a bye week. He just lost to Meats 10-27. Then he has a bye, but then he plays Faz one time. He plays Pauly. He plays Clink, and then he plays Pauly one more time. So 2 guys. I mean, Pauly's looking like one of the better teams in the entire league, and definitely in the NFC. He has to play him twice already. That might be 2 losses right there. Play Faz, obviously, based on reputation, probably a loss right there. There's 3 losses, which gives him 9 losses. And then if Clink's in a playoff hunt right now himself, so he has to stay alive by winning. Week 17 could be huge playoff implications, especially in their own interdivision battle. So you could see him losing 4 out of those 4 games, giving him 10 losses, and he would have to miss, obviously. So I'll pick Woods as my NFC guy.
That was my pick as well. I'm also not going to pick myself.
Yeah, your schedule's easier.
we're struggling over here. We're still alive, but we're struggling. I know I'm one game behind the Bears. I got 2 games left against them, so that'll be where our season's decided.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go NYT in Washington. They're a game under 500 right now, 5-6. Um, Really weird season. If you look at NYT's schedule, it looks like every game was close. He got a close win over Dan, and then he only beat the Falcons by 6. He only beat Finns and the Broncos by 5. So the football team is not out there dominating, even when they play opponents who they probably should be based on records here. But I just don't think there's room. I don't think. I mean, if NYT wins this week, he's only a game out, so um, he definitely has a chance. But some tough games coming up. You got the Raiders, the Cowboys. Grams will always play a solid game. He plays him twice. Um, he plays the Eagles and the Giants. So a lot of divisional football coming up for NYT and the football team. He actually has a chance to win that division. I'm going to give Grams the slight edge at this moment, but I don't think there will be 2 teams from the NFC East. So if NYT does win, then I think the person that I'd pick is Grams. I think there's going to be one representative from the NFC East. They play each other twice, so it'll be some important games being played here down the line. But I'm going NYT. I just thought coming in, the football team had all the pieces necessary to be good. I know
Yeah.
developing Jordan Love is not easy. But I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But that's my pick.
Yeah, it's a pretty good pick. I think that, like you said, I think I was looking at the games right now as well, and he does have a lot of even his losses. Lose to Pauly by 6, lose to Woods by 5. Like you said, he beats guys by 5 as well. The Giants, KJ at the time beats KJ by 5. It's lose to Fast by 5. So, so yeah, I could. That's a good pick as well. Both guys last year in the same division, or AFC North last year, the Ravens and the Browns, and they used to battle it out which one would represent the AFC North each year. They would trade spots every year. So, good pick.
Yeah, definitely. That's all the topics we had for today. Was there any random topics or shout outs that you wanted to give as we wrap up here?
Nothing that comes to mind personally. I mean, obviously, I'm getting ready to get to the playoffs. I'm really looking forward to the off season. Can't wait for that. I know that as the weeks progress, more topics will start to begin about the off season and what we look forward to. So probably the next time you guys hear from us will probably be around the playoff time, I imagine.
Yeah, I'd imagine too. We don't have a set schedule, but we're going to try to record every week or 2 or so here, sort of ad hoc, depending on our schedules. But yeah, no, I'm excited for the playoffs. I'm excited to. I'm taking some bad losses, but I'm enjoying the ride. So
Yeah.
I've been enjoying the season. Inconsistent as I've been, it's been a lot of fun so far. And like you said, I'm also looking forward to the off season. Looking forward to building this team down the line and the season's progressing. But good luck to everyone who's in the playoff race, unless you're fighting for the NFC wild card. And then, yeah, no, that's all I had today. So thank you everyone who's listened, and as always, give us any feedback, or if you'd like to hop on an episode of Flying High, feel free to reach out to us.